sound of the police. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the beast. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the beast. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the beast. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police. Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the beast. Stand clear, done man attack. You can't stand where I stand, you can't walk where I walk. Watch out, we run New York. Policeman come, we bust them out the park. I know this for a fact, you don't like how I act. You claim I'm selling.
Detective Gordon, Detective Duggan.
What have you got for us?
Gruesome murder. The body's in the trunk.
Lord Almighty.
We don't have any prints yet, but we do have a couple leads. We can track the license plate, and there was a fishing pole and scalpel left in the car.
It's gonna be a hard case, but we can handle it.
Victim's name was Ken Wilson. He was found on the security footage at Chuck E. Cheese, murdered in the men's bathroom.
So we've got a murder taking place in a Chuck E. Cheese bathroom a few miles away from here, with our only leads being a stranger's car, a fishing pole, and a scalpel. I need you to prep the interrogation room. We got an MWEC.
What's an MWEC?
It's a murder. With extra cheese.
My eyes are closed. There was the case that they gave me. There was the case that they gave me.
All right, we've got ourselves 4 suspects waiting in the station.
Lay him out.
Suspect number 1 is Mr. Crane. Mr. Crane is a 17-year-old boy who worked the shift at Chuck E. Cheese during the time of the murder. He's had no prior charges, but doesn't seem to have a motive either.
Still could be fishy.
Could be. Speaking of fish, suspect number 2, Mr. Boone. Mr. Boone is a fisherman and has been for 20 years. He's had no prior charges, but has been seen in the security footage at Chuck E. Cheese every weekend for the past few months.
He could be related to the fishing pole that we found in the car.
Could be. Suspect number 3, Dr. Bilder. Dr. Bilger is an esteemed neurosurgeon located at a hospital right next to the Chuck E. Cheese. Not only is he a neurosurgeon, but he's also a therapist and a psychologist. His most recurring patient is our 4th suspect, Mr. Cabler. Mr. Cabler's blood was found on the scalpel with the car in the body.
Well, then he's our guy.
Not exactly. You see, that blood could have been from one of Mr. Cabler's many operations.
It's gonna be a tough case to crack, and it's gonna take a lot of thinking. You know me, I'm not one for thinking. It's not my strong suit, but with you by my side, I think we can crack this one easy.
That means a lot, brother. Now, who are we gonna bring in first?
LeBlanc? Yes. Bring in Mr. Crane.
Will do. Remember, we have to get one of them to confess, or we'll have to find some undebatable evidence in order to send them to court.
Just because you're a first-year cop doesn't mean I am. This ain't my first rodeo. Well, in fact, my first rodeo was when I was 7, and that goat kicked me like a mug.
Mr. Crane?
You're right. Bring Mr. Crane.
Mr. Crane, do you recall anything from the night of October 13th?
October the 13th was a Saturday, so I was working the night shift. But it's not really a night shift because I get off at like 9, so.
Tell us more about your job, Mr. Crane.
I work at Chuck E. Cheese's, but it's more of like a part-time thing because I have school and homework and stuff.
Right. Are you aware of the circumstances of why you're here?
Yeah, I heard there was a murder, but I have like nothing to do with it. I left work at like 11.
Well, security footage shows the murder happened at 10:04 to 7.
Well, that can't be right because I was there.
Mr. Crane,
Do you recognize this car?
Yeah, that's my mom's car.
Do you have your own car, Mr. Crane?
No, my mom drives me.
Aren't you old enough to drive by now?
Aren't you old enough to realize highlights were like a stupid idea?
I swear to God! I'll kill him! I'll kill him! Get him on my side! You don't mean that! I'll kill him! gonna take him out, I swear to God. Get him out of here. Bring him, Mr. Boone. I'm tired of it. Get out of my sight.
Mr. Boone, how long have you been a fisherman for this city?
Nearly 25 years.
How do you sleep at night?
Excuse me?
You heard me. How do you sleep at night knowing how many fish you killed in 25 years?
Duggan, calm down. I'm sorry about him. He's a little bit of an animal rights activist.
Haven't you ever seen Nemo? Fish are goddamn friends.
I don't see how this is helping anything.
Mr. Boone, what kind of fish do you, fish?
Well, mainly catfish and some small thing.
And what do you use for this fishing? Normally a fishing net or?
Fishing pole.
And you've been using a fishing pole always, correct?
Every day for 25 years.
Mr. Boone, can you explain to me how security footage caught you in a Chuck E. Cheese every weekend for the past 2 months?
Well, my son loves going to Chuck E. Cheese, so I like to go there.
Where's your son now?
My son?
That's what I said.
Well, 2 months ago, he killed himself.
Oh. I'm sorry, Mr. Boone.
I'm sorry, but we don't have a record of anyone with the last name Boone dying in the last year.
Well, his last name is actually Calhoun. He went with my ex-wife.
You can take a break, Mr. Boone. Thank you. We'll call you if we need to.
I'm sorry, I lost my temper.
That's quite all right, Duggan. Don't you think it's about time we tell suspects who died?
Dr. Bilger, you're a very esteemed doctor, correct?
That's what I am told, Detective.
Confidence. I like it. Mr. Bilger, have you had any interaction with a man named Ken Wilson?
Well, yes, I believe he's the manager at the Chuck E. Cheese next door. He comes for a check-in every once in a while.
Would it surprise you if I told you Mr. Wilson was dead?
Why, of course. I'm sorry to hear that.
Have you ever been upset with Mr. Wilson?
Well, he did steal my money, but other than that, I quite like him. He normally parks his car close to mine, and he's really great with the kids at the hospital.
The fact that you still like him after he stole your money makes me sad.
No, I apologize. Now, you said that it was your car, correct? It says here that your car was impounded 6 months ago for extensive parking tickets.
Well, I've been borrowing it from a friend lately.
Alright then, tell me about one of your patients, Cablet.
He's a scary fellow. He was in an accident a few years ago, and he's needed a lot of brain surgeries.
His blood was found in a scalpel at the trunk of the car in the murder site.
That's odd. I wouldn't know anything about that. I've been quite busy at the hospital these last few weeks.
Speaking of your car, Dr. Bilger, do you recognize this car?
Why, yes, that's the car I've been borrowing.
Your car. That's odd. One of the other suspects recognized it too. Send in Mr. Crane.
Hello again, Mr. Crane. This is Dr. Bilger. We have a few questions to ask you. But first, how do you feel about your manager, Ken Wilson?
He's a nasty man. Like a pervert.
Pervert? But he's so great with the kids at the hospital.
Oh, man. He's an ugly man.
Have you told anyone about this?
No, I'm afraid if I tell anyone, I could, lose my job. Or worse.
Well, that's very helpful. Thank you. We brought you back in here to discuss the car. See, Mr. Bilger here says that he's borrowing it from a friend. You claim it to be your mom's car, yes?
Pretty sure that's my mom's car.
Dr. Bilger, is your friend Mr. Crane's mother?
Yes.
But you don't know Dr. Bilger.
No.
Then why would she let you borrow her car, Doctor?
Yeah, it's either she's a good friend and her son doesn't know him, or It's not like you're sleeping with her.
I am.
What?
Oh, shit. Well,
I'm sorry you had to find out this way. You two are excused for now. We'll call you for news.
Son of a bitch, seriously? Oh my god. Oh my god.
I'm sorry, Mr. Crane.
It's gotta sting. Gotta sting a little bit.
Well, what are you thinking, Duggan?
Well, I'm not sure. Mr. Crane seems to have a clear motive, but Dr. Bilger is the only one who has access to the car. Plus, with the scalpel and all being there.
I mean, what about Mr. Cowboy? He's the last subject.
Are you sure he's the one?
I mean, I don't think he'll know much, but it's worth a try.
I know who did it.
Wait, really? Well, then tell us.
I cannot tell you that.
What do you want?
I want full immunity from charges.
Why? What would you want that for?
Because he made me do it.
We can make it happen.
Really? Are you sure?
We really need to catch this guy. We'll do it.
His name is Mr. Boone.
Mr. Boone? That can't be. What happened?
He came into the hospital on October 13th. He pointed a gun at my head and told me to help him.
Are you sure? It says here you had brain surgery on that day. Are you sure it was him?
Sir, even though I've had 27 brain surgeries, does not mean I'm mental.
How do you formulate? Mr. Kevin, how, during your surgery, would a scalpel have been used?
A scalpel during my surgery, are you kidding me? It's a common medical procedure. Of course.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kevin. That'll be all.
Should we arrest Mr. Boone?
We can't. We need a confession or solid evidence.
Let's bring him in.
Mr. Boone, do you ever hunt? Or do you like to use guns?
No, detective. Not since my boy, you know.
He shot himself.
Yes.
So you wouldn't be comfortable seeing a gun?
No, detective.
Well, thank you, Mr. Boone. We'll call you if we need you.
What? Why'd you stop?
You see, I know who killed Mr. Wilson.
You do? Who?
Dr. Bilger. It was the day of October 13th.
Oh, God.
Let me have this, Duggan. The day is October 13th. Mr. Kabler has a brain surgery. Mr. Kabler is very delusional, and his doctor, Dr. Bilger, sees how he is and takes advantage of him. Dr. Bilger then poses as Mr. Boone to make Kabler help him out with the murder. And you see, the car was never stolen. Bilger hadn't stolen it. And his motive was Mr. Wilson stealing his money.
That explains the fishing pole. He left it there as a clue.
Exactly.
Then let's get that confession.
We know that you did it, Doctor.
I told you, I did not do it.
Why are you lying? No, what is this? I got my gun right taken away for excessive violence. Why are you lying? Put the gun down! Put the gun down! Put the gun down! Put the gun down! I'm not putting the gun down! I'm not putting the gun down! Put the gun down!
Evidence unit found a cut on the body, a scalpel cut.
But that cut had Mr. Kappa's blood on it. That means there was another scalpel. That is solid evidence. Mr. Bilger, I'm gonna read your arrest to you. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I swear. I didn't do it.
What are you doing?
I'm just thinking about the case.
Why? Dr. Bilger's in jail.
Something's just odd about this case.
Yeah, prison must be awful. If I was in there, I'd probably end up killing myself.
Kill yourself.
That's a little uncalled for, don't you think?
No, Mr. Boone lied to us. His son didn't shoot himself. He cut himself.
How do you know?
Just listen. I've searched every file, and there's no record of a man named Boone in this city for 30 years.
Well, then how'd we find him?
One of our detectives followed him after his trip to Chuck E. Cheese. It must have been to remember his son or something.
Why would he lie to us?
To cover up that he pulled a gun on Mr. Kabler.
God.
His name isn't Boom.
What was his ex-wife's name?
It's Calhoun! I'll get the address. Let's go.
Hands up!
Got it.
Oh God.
He must have killed him for ratting him out.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
No. Did we just lose?
That's the sound of the police. That's the sound of the beast. That's the sound of the police. That's the sound of the beast. That's the sound of the police. That's the sound.